You've seen them before. Protesters with the signs, the bullhorns, and one-liner chants. It's always the same thing with always the same result. Them and their protests being totally ignored by the government. And why is that such a surprise? Those old methods are not threatening to the government because they get those types of protests all the time, almost daily. The politicians can safely sit and ignore the whole silly event. What I'm suggesting is to do something different this time. Not signs, banners, bullhorns, chanting, silly t-shirts, and silly costumes will work. The police ignore, the White House ignores, hell, even the bystanders ignore. What would you do if people protested your house in that manner? Would you give in or ignore them? So it's actually no surprise you're being ignored by the government using these old tactics. You want effectiveness, right? You want to be taken serious, right? You want leverage, right? Let me give you an example of leverage. Let's say you wanted to protest a restaurant for bad service, or ripping you off, or for whatever reason. Would you use signs and chants? You'd wear yourself out pretty fast and get tired and eventually go home and give up, right? But let's say you went home and developed an original game plan. Let's say you decided to rework those signs and put cockroaches and mice on them, or pictures of cockroaches and mice on your signs, instead of the usual humdum slogan, restaurant unfair or bad service here. Would this cause the restaurant customers to lose their appetites and therefore hurt their business? This story is just to give you an idea on how to be effective and creative apart from the usual protest strategy. My ideal protest would be perhaps just a few thousand people. We'd start a march at a certain area and head down to the White House. So far so good. It looks like a regular protest. Then, when we got there, the people would spread out into maybe a single column, just like the military. And yes, people might bring their signs, banners, and bullhorns, just like any other protest for effect. After forming a line, they would march right up to the White House fence and drop their signs and bullhorns to be collected by someone so you don't get tagged for littering, and then form a single line and march straight over to the nearest bank and stand there demanding to withdraw their money in an organized bank run. Yes, the banks hate bank runs. It's their weakness, much the same way as cockroaches and mice are a restaurant's weakness. The government is tied to the banks, so hitting them is a strike against the government at the same time. Oh no! They'd stand there for hours, perhaps calling the news channels while they tie up the bank with withdrawals or small deposits. All the while the bad publicity and the confidence in the banks gets destroyed with every passing hour. Their stock starts getting hit. Other people get worried and start dumping their stock too. More people start to do the same thing. The news gets posted online, millions of people view it, the protest hits the news and Wall Street, the bank executives call an emergency meeting. People stop doing business with the banks, people withdraw their money, deposits go down, withdrawals go up. The bank executives call the police, but the police cannot do anything. It's a legal transaction, and if they arrest the people for doing business at the bank, they could get sued as well as the bank getting sued. More bad publicity. This goes on for days without let-up as other groups get interested and join the lines. Finally, the president gets involved. He must save the banks and quell unrest. He has been forced to listen to the people and he can't just ignore them again. Otherwise, those bank runs will be formed again the next day. The banks and the government are in check. This would really be a dream come true. Please, go to my website, antiforeclosurearmy.com, for more ideas and other articles that can help you to be a more effective protester.